The sky turned a sickly green. Kai Park watched from the observation deck of Outpost Omega, his hands gripping the metal railing so tightly his knuckles went white. Something was coming. Something big. Humanity had been exploring space for just over 100 years. They had found many planets, made some friends, and had a few small fights. But nothing prepared them for the resonant swarm. The first warning came from the outer colony of New Horizon. A routine communication burst, then silence. Complete silence. Then screams. Not human screams. Something else. Something that made communication officers vomit and communications technicians cry. Kai remembered the first reports. Garbled messages. Broken signals. Sounds that weren't sounds. Frequencies that didn't make sense. The linguists and communication experts went crazy trying to understand. But they couldn't. No one could. New Horizon went dark in less than 6 hours. 12 minutes after New Horizon's communication went silent, 3 more colonies stopped responding. Then 10 more. Then 20. The map of human-controlled space began to look like it was bleeding. Red markers replacing green ones. Alive to dead. Quickly. They're not just attacking, Yuna Kim said, standing next to Kai. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were wild. They're erasing us. The resonant swarm didn't use traditional weapons. They didn't drop bombs. They didn't shoot lasers. They didn't even send traditional ships. Instead, they sent waves. Waves of something between sound and energy. Waves that could turn technology into dust. Waves that could make human minds forget how to breathe. Kai had seen the first video recordings. They were terrible. Colonists standing still, then suddenly falling. No blood. No marks. Just stopping, like someone had pressed a pause button on living beings. The military tried everything. Electronic shields, magnetic barriers, sound dampeners. Nothing worked. How do you fight something you can't see? Kai mumbled to himself. Yuna heard him. We'll find a way, she said, but her voice didn't sound sure. At Outpost Omega, they watched the invasion spread, like a dark cloud eating up stars, consuming everything in its path. The resonant swarm moved without ships, without traditional movement. They just appeared, and then everything human disappeared. 43 colonies went silent in the first day. 43 worlds with millions of people. Gone. Not destroyed. Not killed. Just removed. Military leaders gathered. They talked. They argued. They tried to make plans. But their plans felt like drawing lines in sand during a hurricane. Useless. Meaningless. Kai looked at the star maps. Each red marker was a world. A home. A civilization. Erased. We need to understand their language, Yuna said suddenly. Not their spoken language. Their other language. The language of waves and frequencies. Kai looked at her. For the first time that day, something like hope flickered in his eyes. The resonant swarm was changing everything humans knew about war, about survival, about existence itself. And humanity was about to change everything the swarm knew about resistance. In the cold, dark observation deck of Outpost Omega, the first plans of human survival began to take shape, not with weapons, not with traditional strategy, but with something far more powerful. Understanding. The green sky continued to watch, waiting. Yuna Kim stared at the computer screen. Her eyes hurt. Her brain felt like it was burning. But she couldn't look away. The alien communication logs were strange. They weren't just data. They were something else. Something alive. Most scientists would have given up. The logs made no sense. They weren't text. They weren't sound. They were patterns. Waves that moved in ways no normal wave should move. But Yuna wasn't most scientists. She had spent years studying communication. Not just human communication. She studied how dolphins talked, how trees shared information, how bacteria communicated. Her colleagues always thought she was weird. Now, those weird studies might save humanity. The computer blinked. Another wave of data came through, captured from the last moments of a destroyed colony. Most people would see random noise. Yuna saw something else. "Jai," she called out. Her voice was quiet but sharp. "Come look at this." Jadli walked into the research room. He was older, tired. He had seen too much death in the past weeks. The resonant swarm had killed more humans in days than all human wars in history. "Look," Yuna pointed at the screen. Jai saw nothing at first. Then something clicked in his brain. These weren't just random waves. They were a language, a living language. "They don't just communicate," Yuna said. "They become the communication." What they discovered was crazy. The resonant swarm didn't use words or signals like humans. They were the signals. Their entire existence was a form of communication. When they attacked a colony, they weren't just destroying buildings. They were talking, changing, spreading. Imagine if a human could become a phone call, could turn into the words being spoken, could change shape with each sentence. That's how the swarm worked. Jay brought coffee, black, strong, the kind that could wake the dead. They worked for hours. Days blended into nights. Outside, humanity was dying. Inside this small room, something important was happening. They discovered the swarm had weaknesses. Every communication system has weak points, places where signals break, where messages get mixed up. "If we can find the right frequency," Yuna said, "we can break their language." It wasn't just about finding a weapon. It was about understanding a totally different way of existing. The military wanted quick solutions. Bombs, guns, big ships, but Yuna and Jai knew better. You can't fight a language with a weapon. You fight a language with another language. They started building something new. Not a weapon, not a shield, something in between. A translator, but not a normal translator. A device that could speak in waves, that could understand how the swarm thought, how they moved, how they existed. Days passed. The human colonies kept dying. But in this small room, hope was growing. Kai Park visited sometimes. He didn't understand most of what they were doing, but he trusted them. When everyone else wanted to shoot first and think later, Yuna and Jay were trying to understand. "We're not just fighting," Yuna would say. "We're learning." The computer screens filled with strange patterns, waves that moved like living things, colors that weren't colors, sounds that weren't sounds. The resonant swarm thought they were winning. They thought humans were simple, weak, easy to remove. They had no idea what was coming. In the quiet research room, the first weapons of human survival were being born. Not with metal, not with explosives, but with understanding. Elena Rodriguez looked at the empty trench. It wasn't just a hole in the ground anymore. It was going to be something else, something strange. Military engineers thought she was crazy. Maybe she was, but crazy was what humanity needed right now. The resonant swarm had killed millions. Entire colonies vanished. Traditional weapons did nothing. Tanks, missiles, lasers, all useless. But sound might work. "We're turning trenches into giant ears," Elena told Kai Park. Her voice was calm. Her eyes were bright. The plan was simple, but also impossible. They would modify military trenches into massive acoustic chambers, not just for hearing, for creating sound, powerful sound. Each trench would become a living weapon, a breathing machine that could push back against the swarm's weird communication waves. Elena's background was perfect for this crazy idea. She was a biomechanical interface expert. She knew how machines could connect with human bodies, how technology could become an extension of human ability. The first test trench was huge, 5 kilometers long, 30 meters deep, walls lined with special materials. Materials that could catch sound, change sound, throw sound back in ways no one had ever seen. Speakers weren't enough. These weren't normal speakers. These were living systems. They could read human brain waves. They could understand human emotions. They could turn human feelings into sound weapons. Jali helped design the brain-sound interface. Yoona Kim provided the alien communication research. Together, they were building something new. "We're not just making a weapon," Jay explained to the military leaders. "We're creating a new way of fighting." The military was desperate. They listened. The first prototype was called a Hounds Singer unit, not because it looked like a dog, but because of how it would sound. Loud, sharp, powerful. Soldiers would enter these modified trenches. Special helmets would connect their brains directly to the trench systems. Their emotions, their fears, their anger, all would become sound waves. Imagine a soldier's fear turning into a frequency that could stop an alien invasion. That was the plan. Elena worked day and night. Her team tested everything. Small animals first, then volunteers. Each test was carefully watched. The first successful test was weird. A soldier thought about his home, about his family. The trench walls started to vibrate, not with normal sound, but with something else, something that felt alive. "It works," Elena whispered. The military started building more trenches, not in straight lines, but in complex patterns. Patterns that could catch and throw sound in impossible ways. Kai Park watched the first full test. The trench looked like a sleeping monster, quiet, but ready to wake up. When they activated the system, something magical happened. The trench came alive. It wasn't just a hole in the ground. It was a living sound machine. Frequencies that humans couldn't hear started to move. Waves that could touch alien minds. Waves that could break alien communication. The resonant swarm thought they understood humans. They were wrong. Humanity was about to show them how wrong they were. The first Hound Singer units were ready, waiting. The trenches breathed, waiting to sing their terrible song. War was changing, and humanity was writing the new rules. The planet was dying, but today it would fight back. Sergeant Min Park stood in the modified trench. His helmet was different, not like old military helmets. This one connected directly to the trench walls, to the sound system, to something more. 20 kilometers away, the resonant swarm approached. They didn't look like ships. They looked like waves, like living energy moving across the landscape. The first Hound Singer unit was about to have its real test. Min closed his eyes. He thought about his home, about the colony that had been destroyed, about his family, gone in seconds, erased by these alien waves. His anger started to build. The trench walls began to shake, soft at first, then stronger. Yoona Kim watched from the command center. Her fingers moved across screens, tracking, measuring, watching. Emotional resonance at 78%, she called out. Jali nodded. They had no idea if this would work. The resonant swarm kept coming. No ships, no traditional weapons, just waves of energy that could destroy everything. Min's anger turned into something else. Not just anger, something deeper, a sound that wasn't a sound. The trench walls started to sing. It wasn't like normal sound, not a human voice, not a machine noise, something in between. A frequency that could touch minds, that could break communication. The first wave of the swarm hit the sound barrier and stopped. Imagine a wall of pure emotion, of human pain, of human survival, turned into a weapon that could stop alien waves. The swarm tried to push through. They couldn't. The sound was alive, moving, changing, blocking their communication. Min kept thinking, kept feeling. The trench became an extension of his mind. Kilometers away, alien communication systems started to break. Not explode, not burn, just fall apart, like a language forgetting how to speak. Target communication systems disrupted, a computer voice said. Kai Park watched the screens. For the first time in months, something was going right. The Houndsinger unit worked. Not just worked. It destroyed the swarm's ability to communicate, to exist. One trench, one soldier, had done what entire fleets couldn't. The resonant swarm pulled back. They had never seen anything like this. A weapon that wasn't a weapon. A defense that was pure emotion. Min opened his eyes. The trench was quiet now, but something had changed. Humanity had found its first real weapon against the invasion. Not a gun, not a missile, but a scream. A living, thinking scream that could break alien minds. In the command center, Yuna looked at Ja. They both knew something big had just happened. The first battle was won. But the war was just beginning. The trenches waited, ready to sing again. Humanity had found its voice. The training was hard. Harder than anything humans had done before. Potential Houndsingers weren't just soldiers anymore. They were something else. Living weapons, sound warriors. Elena Rodriguez watched the first group of trainees. 50 people, picked from thousands. Not because they were the strongest, but because they could feel deeply. Emotion is your weapon, she told them. Your pain, your anger, your hope. These are now tools. The training center looked like a mix between a music studio and a military base. Soundproof walls, brain scanners everywhere, strange machines that could read human feelings. Each trainee wore a special suit, not armor, something more like a second skin. Sensors everywhere, connecting brain to sound, emotion to frequency. Jadli designed the training program. It wasn't about shooting. It wasn't about fighting. It was about feeling, about understanding how emotions could become weapons. Day one was the hardest. Trainees sat in special chairs, helmets connected to their heads, screens everywhere. They had to learn to turn feelings into sound waves. Some broke down, cried. The training was too intense. Memories of lost families, destroyed colonies. Everything became part of the weapon. Not everyone could be a Houndsinger. A woman named Su Jin was different. When she thought about her destroyed hometown, something magical happened. The room filled with a sound that wasn't a sound. A frequency that could cut through metal, through alien communication systems. She's perfect, Elena whispered. The training went on. Weeks became months. Each Houndsinger learned to do something impossible, to turn human emotion into a weapon. They practiced with different feelings. Anger was loud, sharp, destructive. Grief was deep, painful, could stop alien waves. Hope was strange, a frequency it could heal and destroy at the same time. Kai Park watched the training. He didn't understand everything, but he knew this was humanity's best chance. The resonant swarm had killed millions, erased entire colonies. Now humans were fighting back, not with traditional weapons, but with something they had always had: emotions. Each Houndsinger became more than a soldier. They became a living communication system, a weapon that could think, could feel, could change. Some trainees could create sounds that could stop alien waves. Some could create frequencies that could heal human minds. Some could do both. Su Jin could do something special. She could create a sound that could make alien communication systems forget how to communicate, like teaching a language how to break itself. The first Houndsinger unit was almost ready. 50 soldiers, 50 living weapons, 50 humans who could turn feelings into sound that could save humanity. Outside, the resonant swarm kept moving, destroying, killing. They had no idea what was coming. Humanity was learning to fight, not just with machines, but with something deeper, something more powerful. The Houndsingers were ready. The trenches were waiting. War was about to change forever. Yuna Kim stared at the data. Something was hiding. Something important. For months, she had studied the resonant swarm's communication patterns. Most scientists would have gone crazy. The data made no sense. It was like trying to read a language that changed every second. But Yuna was different. She saw patterns where others saw noise. connections where others saw random signals. The breakthrough came at 3:47 in the morning. Most people were sleeping. Yuna was drinking her fourth cup of coffee. Her eyes burned. Her mind was racing. The swarm's communication had a weakness, a tiny, hidden weakness. Imagine a language that could move, that could change, but also a language that had to follow some rules. Very small rules, but rules that could be broken. Jadley walked into the research room. He looked tired. He always looked tired these days. Look, Yuna pointed at the screen. The data showed something crazy. The swarm's communication system had a rhythm. Not a normal rhythm. Something more complex, like a heartbeat that could change its own speed. Every communication system has a breaking point, Yuna said. Her voice was quiet but excited. The weakness was in how the swarm shared information. They didn't use words. They didn't use signals. They became the communication. But that meant they had to follow some rules. Rules could be broken. Ja looked closer. His brain started to understand. The swarm's communication wasn't just a way of talking. It was how they existed, how they thought, how they moved. Break the communication. Break the swarm. Yuna started writing code. Not normal code. Something different. A way to create a frequency that could touch the swarm's communication system. A frequency that could make them forget how to talk to each other. It's like a virus, Jay said. But for alien communication. The first test was small. They used a tiny machine. Something that could create very specific sound waves. Waves that could touch the swarm's communication system. The machine worked. For just 1 second, the alien communication system broke. Just a tiny break. But it was enough. Proof that humans could fight back. Kai Park came to see the results. He didn't understand all the science, but he understood what it meant. A way to stop the swarm. Yuna and Jad worked faster now. They knew they had found something big. A way to make the swarm's communication system collapse. The next step was to make it bigger, stronger. Something that could work across entire planetary systems. We're not just making a weapon, Yuna said. We're learning a new way of fighting. The resonant swarm thought they understood humans. They were wrong. Humanity was about to show them how wrong they were. The research continued. The code grew. The frequency got stronger. Somewhere in space, the swarm kept moving. Destroying. Killing. They had no idea what was coming. Humanity had found its weapon. Not a gun. Not a missile. A sound that could break alien minds. The sky burned green. Alien waves moved across the horizon. The resonant swarm thought they were winning. They were wrong. Kai Park stood on the command deck. 50 Hound singers waited in the modified trenches, each one connected to a system that could turn human emotion into a weapon. Activate the sonic network, Kai ordered. Su Jin was the lead Hound singer. She closed her eyes, thought about her destroyed home, about her family, about everything the swarm had taken. The trenches came alive. It wasn't like normal sound. Not a noise. Not a weapon. Something else. A living frequency that could break alien communication. The first wave hit the swarm's communication systems. Everything stopped. Imagine a weapon that could make a language forget how to speak. That could make communication systems collapse. That could turn alien waves into silent nothing. Yuna and Jay watched from the research center. Their code. Their discovery. Becoming real. The Hound singers weren't just soldiers anymore. They were living weapons. Each one could create a frequency that could destroy alien communication. Su Jin's emotions turned into sound waves. Waves that could cut through alien communication systems. Waves that could make the swarm forget how to exist. 1 trench became 10. 10 became 100. 100 became 1,000. The human defensive line transformed. Not just a border. A living sound machine. The resonant swarm tried to push back. They couldn't. Their communication systems were breaking. Falling apart. Forgetting how to work. Kai watched the screens. For the first time, humans were winning. The offensive wasn't about killing. It was about breaking communication, about making the swarm unable to think, to move, to exist. Each hound singer became a different frequency. Anger, pain, hope, fear, all turned into weapons. Some frequencies could stop alien waves. Some could heal human minds. Some could do both. The battle wasn't in space. It wasn't on the ground. It was in frequencies, in sounds that weren't sounds. Hours passed. The swarm's communication systems kept breaking. They had no defense against this. They didn't understand human emotions, didn't know how to fight a weapon made of feeling. Kay's voice was calm. Continue the sonic offensive. More trenches activated. More hound singers joined. The sound network grew, became stronger. The resonant swarm started to fall apart. Not destroyed, not killed, just broken. Their communication systems collapsed. Their ability to move stopped. They became silent waves. Yuna watched the data. "We're winning," she whispered. Jay nodded. Their months of research, their crazy idea, working. The green sky started to clear. The alien waves began to fade. Humanity had found its weapon. Not a gun, not a missile, a sound that could break alien minds. The great sonic offensive was working. The swarm was falling. Humanity was fighting back. The resonant swarm made one last move. They gathered all their remaining energy, all their communication power, everything they had left. One final attack. Kai Park knew this was the moment. Everything they had worked for would be tested now. The alien waves looked different, darker, more angry, like a language trying to scream one last time before dying. Su Jin stood in the central trench. She was the strongest hound singer, the one who could create the most powerful frequencies. "Prepare the final sonic defense," Kai ordered. Yuna and Jay watched from the command center. Their research, their months of work, everything came down to this moment. The swarm's final attack began. It wasn't like normal fighting. No ships, no traditional weapons, just waves of alien communication trying to break through human defenses. Su Jin closed her eyes. She thought about everything she had lost. Her family, her home, the colonies destroyed. Her emotions became a weapon. The trench around her came alive, not with normal sound. Something else, a frequency that could touch alien minds, that could break alien communication systems. Each hound singer connected. Their emotions joined, became stronger. Anger turned into a sound that could stop alien waves. Grief became a frequency that could break communication. Hope created a wave that could heal and destroy. The swarm pushed, harder than ever before. But humans had learned something important. Emotions could be a weapon. Feelings could fight back. The sonic network expanded. Trench after trench activated. Hundreds of hound singers joined their frequencies. Kai watched the screens. The battle wasn't about killing. It was about communication, about breaking the swarm's ability to exist. Yuna's code worked perfectly. The frequencies they had discovered attacked the swarm's communication system. Imagine a language that could forget how to speak, how to think, how to exist. That was the weapon humans had created. Hours passed. The swarm kept pushing. Humans kept fighting. But something was different this time. The human frequencies were getting stronger. The swarm was getting weaker. Su Jin's frequency became something special, a sound that could make alien communication systems completely collapse. The swarm's final attack started to break. Not explode, not burn, just fall apart, like a language forgetting how to speak. The green sky began to clear. The alien waves started to fade. Kai's voice was calm. Maintain the sonic network. The last of the swarm's communication systems collapsed. They didn't die. They didn't get destroyed. They simply stopped existing. In the command center, Yuna looked at Ja. They had done it. Humanity had found a way to fight back. Not with traditional weapons, not with ships or missiles, but with something more powerful. With understanding. With emotion. The final confrontation was over. Humanity had won. 5 years after the resonant swarm disappeared, humans looked different. Su Jin taught at the new Emotional Warfare Academy. It wasn't a military school. It was something else. A place where humans learned their greatest weapon. Understanding. The world had changed. Humans weren't just explorers anymore. They were listeners, communicators, people who understood that emotions could be more powerful than any weapon. Yuna Kim received the highest scientific award, not for creating a weapon, but for understanding a new way of communication. We didn't just fight, she told the students. We learned how to listen. The trenches that once stopped the swarm were now museums, places where people could understand how humanity survived. Kai Park became the leader of the new Interstellar Communication Research Center. His job wasn't about fighting. It was about understanding. The Hounds singers weren't soldiers anymore. They became translators, diplomats, people who could understand languages that weren't just words. Elena Rodriguez continued her research. She discovered that the technology they created could heal minds, could help people understand each other better. Jali wrote books, not about war, about how humans learn to communicate in new ways. The resonant swarm was gone, but they had taught humans something important. Communication is more than words. Feelings are more than emotions. Understanding is the real weapon. New colonies were built, not with walls, not with weapons, but with listening centers, places where different species could learn to understand each other. Su Jin looked at her students, young people who would never know war like she did. Our greatest strength, she would say, is our ability to feel, to understand, to listen. The first alien species contacted after the swarm was different. They came not with weapons, but with open communication channels. Humans were ready. They had learned that the most powerful thing in the universe wasn't a weapon. It was understanding. The acoustic technologies developed during the war were now used to help, to heal, to connect. Researchers found ways to use the frequencies to help people with communication disorders, to help different species understand each other. The museums told the story, how humanity almost died, how they found a way to survive, not by being the strongest, but by being the most understanding. Kai Park would sometimes visit the old research centers, remember the days when everything could have been lost. Yuna and Jay continued their work, always looking, always listening. The green sky that once meant danger was now just a sky. The sounds that once meant war now meant connection. Humanity had changed. They learned that the most powerful weapon wasn't in a gun, not in a missile, not in a ship. The most powerful weapon was the ability to understand, to feel, to listen. The resonant swarm was gone, but they had taught humanity its most important lesson. Communication is everything. Understanding is power, and humanity was just beginning to learn.